Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the I'm Telling God About This podcast. And what are we telling God about today? Well, nothing he doesn't already know. Just a bunch of morally slanderous, morally bankrupt, completely devoid and divorced from reality, little organization formerly known as the Boyscouts of America, now heretofore to be known as...
problematic word.
Yeah,
Boy.
I know, right? Scouting America, which is hilarious because, you would think in the admission that, hey, we're not just for boys anymore, because we've been allowing girls since when, Josh? When did they start allowing girls?
In 2015.
Okay, so since 2015, they've been allowing girls, but at least now, the Boy Scouts of America have recognized that boys and girls are in fact different things, and so therefore they have to change their name. But don't get too excited because, as history has shown us, these people have no idea which way is up, and you shouldn't trust your children to them. So we're going to talk about that. You
shouldn't trust your children to most other adults just from the get-go.
Facts.
Like, that's got to be a tightly curated group there.
For more
controlled.
Reference our episode on public school and the education system. But back to the Boy Scouts, it's an interesting timeline that has occurred. I mean, the Boy Scouts used to be, what a great organization that they used to be, in the sense that it encouraged fathers and their sons to learn and grow and bond in the wilderness. I mean, the wilderness is definitely something I think that is near and dear to a lot of men's heart. I think there's a lot of peace, a lot of quiet, a lot of mental health is our good friend Jordo
was he
alone.
A scout?
Yeah, no, he wasn't a scout, but he talked about the benefits of being out in the wilderness and the mental health of you could have like being addicted to drugs, you could have all kinds of mental problems, and then you spend a good amount of time out in the wilderness and surviving, and all that stuff. God, it's almost
I'm not
goes
saying
away.
That's not true, but Jordan doesn't exactly have the average temperament or constitution.
Oh, sure,
also true.
Right, but
he spent a lot of time outside.
No, he
right.
did.
Something about nature is very healing, I think, to the mental state.
Sure. Yeah. All right, so here's the thing.
It used to be that.
Right. Yeah, so let's look at scouting, because like here's what's interesting to me is that like scouting is this like, it was like one of the pillars of what we would consider like our former homogenous society. Like whenever it talks about the good old days, like in the 50s, which by the way scouting's older than the 50s. But it was this idea that like society comes together around core values and mutually held beliefs. It's what allows us to make separations between, say, ourselves and other people. We love to win. Canada doesn't, so we have a border, right? It's very simple.
Do we?
I mean, we do. You right now, I want you to cut to the Patton in front of the big flag, and he's like, "Americans love a winner, and they won't despise a loser."
Speech.
Yeah,
Best
we'll go right to
intro
that. All right,
ever.
we'll cut to that right in here. But anyway, my point is that values have to be instilled, and they have to be reinforced. And so the way that we used to do that was what you were teaching in the home would be reflected in what you would receive at school. And I'll give you an example, like, even as late as the 60s when JFK instituted the physical fitness tests in high school that reflected what we did in the military. And you were creating this homogenous view of like, hey, an American, as Americans, we value being physically fit, being morally upright, achieving. And so like the Boy Scouts was this cool thing where as a child, it was achievement based, it was male reinforcement. So it was, you think school, you're having to sit at a desk, you're doing all of these different kinds of things, but like in scouting, it was a male environment where boys learned to interact with other men and older boys in a hierarchy, achievement based structure with an honor code and a value system. And those things, the boys could see those things reflected, the things that they were maybe hopefully being and historically were being taught in their homes were then being reflected by the other boys in their community and the other dads in their community. And so that's what reinforces this notion that like, hey, maybe what I'm being taught is true. So even if you had a problem with your parent, you were like, well, at least what they're teaching me is right, because I see this in Jim Bob's dad and Joey and whoever else.
And doing that in the context of unkept nature makes a big difference too, right? You're not in this super clean, orderly environment, so that gradation of commitment and skill level and attentiveness and all these other things actually starts to matter in a much more tangible way when everything all the edges haven't already been rounded off in the environment that you're in.
100%. And I see that in Germany. So I live in Germany right now. In Germany, everything is all about like exactly that. Like the playgrounds here are awesome. They're like they're even more dangerous than the playgrounds that I grew up with.
Every time I see a trampoline with a net, I'm just like, you're making soft children.
It offends me. Like my daughter lost her 2 front teeth recently, and I'm like, I lost both of my 2 front teeth on the same day. And she said, well, how did you do that? And I was like, well, I was at church, and our church playground had this like thing called a merry-go-round. And she was like, what's that? And I realized, of course, you haven't seen one of those. They haven't been around for a long time for this exact reason. It's a big, rusty metal disc that's bolted to the ground with metal bars attached to it. And you would spin around on it as fast as possible and then fling yourself off of it.
And you would have to get like 8 of your friends to get this thing spinning at the same time. Yeah.
And then as if that wasn't dangerous enough, you would like try to do tricks. So like, your daddy, nothing has changed since I was, your age. I was showing off, and I decided I was going to jump and try to do the spin move, and I shorted it, and the whipping metal bars caught me in the mouth. And, I lost both my 2 front teeth that day and ran into the church and probably interrupted my dad's Bible study or, class that he was teaching, just like you guys.
Man.
So anyway, my point being...
and the closer because of physics, the closer you crawl to the center of one while it's spinning, the faster it goes because of the conservation of angular momentum. So you can make the kids on the outside fall off by going to the inside, they're going to be more affected by the tangential velocity.
Right. And the stupid kids could never figure that out,
Right, they're like, why am I suddenly being flung off while you're just standing in the middle of this?
The next thing you know, you got some redheaded ginger kid standing over you going, kill him! You can put that in there, Josh.
Oh man, no, dude, it's the amount of thought that goes into the things that we could do to be on the cliff of being injured seriously as a kid. Everything from like BMX dirt biking like parks that somebody would make out in the wilderness, and you're looking back at the videos, and we're wearing helmets at that point, but then when people would get injured, like they'd fall.
We made fun of the kids who wore helmets.
Yeah, we did not wear helmets.
At
was in California.
They look stupid.
They did.
Oh, you had a BMX park?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
That's because the injuries
I'm talking
were
about
pretty
biking
gruesome.
around your neighborhood on your
right. Down the storm drain on the big hill.
A kid would go off of a jump, and he had no business being there, and he'd land, snap his arm in half, and his arm would be dangling like a knee, like a knee in his forearm,
awesome.
And he's like, oh no, and we're like, oh no. Johnny's gonna have to go to the hospital and there was no parents around, so it's like everyone's like, oh, we gotta walk a mile just to get to a parent.
Right,
I mean, it was bad.
So bringing this together, right? So what's the point here, right? The point of telling all of these horror stories is that kids aren't stupid, right? Like
no.
they understand when things are fake and when things are real and authentic. That's one of the big things that millennials got a bad rap for, but like the whole the notion of like authenticity and why they care about that's what the whole hipster thing cared. Like I want things that are real, that are tangible, that are part of the reason that people
generous characterization of the
I know
hipsters.
I'm being generous. I was one, so I can't really hate on them too hard. But I would say that the thing that resonates with that is like a kid knows when they're doing something that's dangerous, when it's something that their mom and dad said they couldn't do. Like I remember when I would go on camping trips with my dad in the knockoff, Christian version of Boy Scouts, the Baptist version, Royal Ambassadors, for all my former RAs out there, if you're listening. We'd go to like an RA father-son camp out, and like I would get to make the fire, like I would get to play with the matches. I would get to carry my pocket knife. I would get to bring my bow out to the woods or go fishing with my buddies like not standing right next to my dad, you know, like the kind of trust, like it was a shepherded freedom where we were able to like engage in like grown-up activities and behaviors, and we were able to learn those things. And then what's cool about the Boy Scouts is they had the merit badge system where basically you were able to earn achievements, which, you know, for those of you who were born, you know, in the last 15 to 20 years, those didn't start with video games. Those were achievements were things that you used to earn in the real world.
Originally Boy Scouts, not
That's
video
so true.
Right.
I didn't even catch that fact that those had actually morphed from that.
Correct.
And that's where they originated.
We would get real achievements, like you would earn things like trophies for winning.
Can you imagine a Boy Scout walking around with like triple kill on his, on his vest?
They probably have that. There's probably like an Xbox Scouting of America.
Yeah,
you know, like
true.
they also probably have like they have like your rally series now where you can go and be like, you can get your like Palestinian protest, Marxist, you know, supporting,
BLM,
LGBTQRS. Like you have to get each of the letters.
Like
you have to get each of the letters for like helping them through a hard emotional event. Anyway, so all that to say, like achievement based, hierarchical, dangerous, you know, it was a real thing that you could do starting as young as like 6 or 7 in Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Oh, I think it was Cub Scouts. Was it even that old? I feel like
it might be even younger.
5.
Yeah, 5 probably.
Because basically kindergarten, I think, was like essentially the.
And
I wasn't one.
Kindergarten through 5th grade, and then you got your Scouts BSA, which is like 11 through 17, and then you get into adventure.
They have that
Scouts
here.
Or exploring.
They have wild kindergarten. They call it wild kindergarten here in Germany. They don't have a classroom or a building. You just drop your kids off in the woods with a teacher, and they spend all day, like, if they have to go to the bathroom, they literally teach the kindergartners to dig a ditch.
What do they call kindergarten in Germany?
That.
Just fucking.
Oh, anyway. But that's like what's so frustrating to this, because I was thinking about this today. It's like, why did this bother me so much? And it was because I was thinking about it, because it's like, it's not news. Boy Scouts isn't Boy Scouts anymore. And
hasn't been for a long time.
Yeah.
Everybody who mattered already walked away.
Right. But it's like, I think it's just the further degradation of the institution, you know?
Oh, and it's intentional, right? Because that aspect of it is it's intentionally antagonistic to anybody who previously believed these things. The goal is to gut it of everything that made it valuable and desirable, because who are they hurting when they do that? Well, there's entire legacies, generations of people from not so long ago that engaged in this, and now they're embarrassed to even, they just shake their head when they see all this going on. Like, I mean, as late as, gosh, when I was, I think, starting high school, there were guys at my church who were like Eagle Scouts, right? They'd gone through the whole thing. You know, you've got to do some like massive project to earn your final stuff. And I wonder, like, now that's not to say they don't value the actual substance and the experiences that they went through there, but the fact that the institution that it was tied to has become an object of ridicule and shame and is now antithetical to all those things that made it valuable for them. It's intentional. It's an intentional assault to say, hey, you can't have anything that promotes your values and convictions, and we're going to take the things that you thought were buttressing that, and we're going to tell you, hey, that was all worthless.
Right? And look at this. Like, on that note, this is what's hilarious. Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. Go ahead, bud. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, no,
so that actually moves to the point that you're making. Really, kind of moves to like the slow progression of the intentional degradation of the society, or of the, not just society, but of the organization. I mean, you had 2013. You had the Boy Scouts voted to allow openly gay males to become Boy Scouts, while maintaining the organization's ban on openly gay scout leaders, right? At that time in 2013, you had a lot of churches who were predominantly the supporters of the Boy Scouts, took a step back. And then in 2015, like 2 years after that, they saw a massive like recession from the Boy Scouts. A lot of membership dropped. It went from like 2 million down to like a couple 100,000, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So it had dropped. And then 2015 happens, and then that's when they allowed openly gay scout leaders to become or to join or to be able to participate. And at that point, you had an even further recession of membership. So it's not that it was accidental. Like they saw the effects of it in 2013, right. And yet they doubled down and said, all right, we're going to have it now in the leadership.
Yeah,
they don't want it to thrive because the conditions on which it thrived in the first place were things that they hated. And by they, I mean the people who marched through this institution to fundamentally alter its values because they hate the Judeo-Christian tradition that it's based on.
Which is hilarious because this is what cracks me up. Like I literally just pulled up the Boy Scout website a minute ago just to see if they had changed stuff because, I mean, like, I'm going to read this to you. This is the Scout Oath, okay? Like, this is still the Scout Oath. The incongruence is just mind-blowing to me. Here it is. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God, capitalized, singular, and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And as if you're wondering, oh, well, morally straight, maybe they're being ambiguous. Well, let's talk about what a Scout is based on the 12-point Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, to tell the truth and keep promises. People can depend on you. What is truth? Whose truth are we talking about here?
Is it the capital G God? I think.
Yeah, it's the capital G God. Yeah, I wonder. Loyal, show that you care about your family, friends, scout leader, school, and country. Helpful, volunteer to help others without expecting a reward. Self-sacrificial, love that. Friendly, be a friend to everyone, even people who are different from you. Courteous, be polite to everyone and always use good manners. Kind, treat others the way you want to be treated. Never harm or kill any living thing without a good reason.
I've heard that somewhere before.
I know, it's really sounds very familiar. Obedient.
Stealing it.
Follow the rules of your family, school, and pack. Obey the laws of your community and country. Cheerful. Look on the bright side of life. That sounds like resiliency. Cheerfully do tasks that come your way and try to help others and be happy. Thrifty. Work to pay your own way. Ooh, like that. Little Milton Friedman going on here. Try not to be wasteful. Use time, food, and supplies and natural resources wisely. Brave. Face difficult situations even when you feel afraid. Do what you think is right despite what others are maybe saying or doing. Clean. Keep your body and mind fit. Don't embrace your mental health, your mental illness, and call it your identity. Help keep your home and country clean. Reverent. This is the best one. The last one. Best for a laugh. Only a little bit at the end. All right. This one I'm not ad-libbing. Here it is. Reverent. Be reverent towards God. Singular, capitalized. Be faithful in your religious duties. Respect the beliefs of others. Like, the thing that annoys me about this is I agree with everything you're saying, Tim, that this is all intentional, all ridiculous. But these clown shoes can't even be bothered or don't realize or are just
it's intentional.
So inept.
That's what I'm saying is it's intentional because they're basically wearing it like a skin suit. And they're saying, hey, we're the Boy Scouts. No, they are. That's exactly what's going on.
We get a Pip-Boy with like wearing the face of like a Boy Scout. As our thumbnail. Sorry.
But it is that they're thumbing their nose at the thing saying, no, we are going to actually steal the mantle. Because that's why they take over and subvert existing institutions instead of just making their own. Nothing was ever stopping anybody from making a
queer scouts,
boys and girls inclusive, gay scouts, like whatever. You could have always done that. They intentionally needed to destroy the good one. And they needed to take it over and seize the mantle and say, no, this is ours now. Anything you guys make is fake. We're the real scouts. We own it. So the problem is you assume that these things are somehow accidental, that them leaving in this incongruous oath is somehow an oversight on their part. It's like, no, they're trying to steal it from you. They're trying to steal it from all of the people who went through real Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts back in the day. So when they say that oath, they can say, well, this is our oath. And it doesn't mean what you think it means. It doesn't still mean what you thought it did. That was just you superimposing your cultural supremacist views on, what the laws and the whatever were supposed to be.
I think that it's interesting because not only are they not starting a different Scouts group to fit in with, their particular culture or narrative that might disagree, and to kind of further the point of they're trying to destroy it from within. The fact that they allowed the women or little girls to join the Cub Scouts, and then the Girl Scouts sued the Cub Scouts because they're like, wait, hold on. So it is not like they are doing this to say, well, we just want to be inclusive. Well, the Girl Scouts would disagree, but like, no, you're taking away potential members of the Girl Scouts. Like what?
And
what
you're
exactly
watering down your whole
here?
thing. Like that's the whole point.
You're taking it away. And I mean, if they started allowing boys into the Girl Scouts, let's see how that would go over. I don't think that there would be. I think you would still have
boys that know their boys don't want to be Girl Scouts.
Right.
That's the difference.
Well, here's the other thing: is it happens gradually. It happens gradually, and it's like small baby steps. And when you look at the United Methodist Church, right? Like it's slowly making progress. What I remember a couple of years ago, they did the same vote to allow the LGBT community to kind of become pastors and leaders,
and they split.
And they split, right? And there was the only thing that kept the Methodist Church from not embracing the LGBT community was the Methodists in Africa. Love them. They were just like, nope. This is the Bible. This is we don't go by a different book, right?
Well,
and
they still split.
They did that again.
Yeah.
Right. So this year, they just recently had another convention and meeting where they voted on it. And there was pushback, again, from those same groups. But I think, enough of those groups had left the Methodist Church to where there wasn't, and it passed with something like 93% in favor of embracing the LGBT community within the leadership of as pastors and counselors.
Of the one that did it before?
About what they mean by embracing the LGBT community. Put a fine point on. They mean becoming practicing clergy in opposition.
Being homosexual.
We're not talking about being willing to speak to repentant former gay or whatever. Like
they're not taking the stance to say, well, you can join the church and be in sin, and we'll just let the Holy Spirit work on you. And I mean, not even to that extent. Like they're just outwardly like you are.
Well, because like think about when they lost that fight was when they had the first vote. And the ones who were stopping it from happening didn't kick out the heretics, right? Once that failed, it was heresy, deep moral heresy had already taken root and could not be removed, and that's why all of the still Bible-believing elements of that denomination left. Because I thought, well, we're not supposed to have fellowship with this, and we can't go through the motions. It would be dishonorable to God for us to continue pretending like we're in communion with this kind of unrighteousness.
So frustrating because this is one of the things. So one of the things that's cool about being a chaplain is like I work in a very ecumenical environment, even denominationally, with other Christian pastors. So like I have very good friends that are strong, solid Christian pastors. That came up in the Methodist Church, and I hate it for them because that's not what they believe. That's not what their home churches believe, like many Methodist churches. However, like that's what happens when, the organization is centrally controlled and, has that much tie-in to the other, to their denomination, is that you get sucked into stuff like this. And so like, for as much crap as I take for being a Baptist, like that's one of the things that can never happen. It's like you can associate whatever you want with that name, but like my home church, at least, my sending church, Thomas Road Baptist Church, like they're not gonna, I don't have to worry about that happening there. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if they choose to do that,
Baptist
that's a whole
church
other
is
thing.
Independent, right?
They're independent. Theology. They can do their own thing. Like I'm not getting affected by what Baptists in, California or wherever else are doing, or more liberal sides of the country, which there are. I learned, we were talking right before the show, and Tim was telling me about some liberal Baptists in Virginia that I was very surprised to hear even existed. But
we have 2 state level conventions, and I believe the issue that led to theirs, they both roll up to the national Southern Baptist Convention, but they both split from each other, and I believe it was on the basis of something to do with gays. I don't think it was to the point of
affirming or not affirming,
clergy, or if it was just like membership. What exactly the particulars were, and so like if you look at a Southern Baptist church in Virginia, like go check which of the associations, because you will get a very different flavor depending on.
Have you guys seen this Instagram channel, on the note of just crazy theological stuff? Have you seen this Instagram channel, The Holy Nope? Have you seen this?
Yes.
This guy?
Yes.
No?
Dude.
I don't have Instagram.
Hold
so
on.
no.
Josh, you might.
We got to be careful because might get hit. We
don't want to get copyright strike. We're just trying to promote, man.
Go ahead, Josh.
Go ahead. Tell him, Josh. No, you tell him.
Okay, so there's this guy. He videotapes himself, and it's kind of like, you see those people that are standing around at the gym and they're looking, and then you see a clip of some crazy people at the gym. Well, he does that with Christians, right? So he's like, getting up in the morning, going to church. He sits down in church and he opens his Bible and he sees a bunch of Pentecostals rolling around on the ground, and he like closes his Bible and like walks away,
and he like leaves.
Somebody's handling snakes and stuff. Yeah, no.
He'll just I love it because he's got this like meek voice, and he'll be like, oh man, it's the Lord's Day. I'm gonna get together, get my Bible, I'm gonna go listen to the Word of God. Sits down, he opens up, and it's like, Jesus has told me that the Bible is not the Word of God, and he goes, nope. He closes the door and like leaves. It's like a great reacts. It's just like a canned reacts video to all kinds of heresy, and it is just
perfect.
A gold mine. Big fan.
And the funny thing is, it's more true today that we do that internally. Like, there's so many things and situations where we're looking into, different organizations that you might join, whether it be clubs, sporting events, or not sporting events, but sporting clubs, or, especially things for kids, like Boy Scouts, right? And you go in and you're reading through it and you're like, nope. Like, I mean, there's just things. So what's the alternative?
With children's books, it's no.
Sorry, oh my gosh! Don't get me started.
Get into that.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, so I'm reading. Okay, so I think it's been around for a long time. This was years ago. And I was reading like Llama Red Pajama, right?
Yeah.
It spun off into a whole series of books, right? Because I mean, the whole thing is based on the notion that llama, pajama, and mama all rhyme, provided you pronounce them in a silly way. And so I get a couple more of these at some point. I don't know if they were gifts or whatever. And I'm like, hold on a second. This whole book series is based around a single mother.
Right?
And I was like, why? And here's the thing. In Llama Red Pajama, it's unclear. Like, that doesn't come up.
Yeah.
But then in the others, you have this noticeably absent father, right, where the mom's having to have babysitters, or she's by herself dropping the kid off at grandparents, whatever. And it's like, why are you having to subversively insert non-traditional, like I don't want to normalize single motherhood to my daughters? Are you insane? It's like, hey, would you like to be miserable? Congratulations.
Right. It's not
check
ideal.
This is Barnes and Noble. They have the LGBTQIA children's book section,
fire.
right? Right?
Kill it with fire.
I don't know if anyone's been to Barnes & Noble recently, but it's definitely, I'm
Josh,
doing the holy nope
This
throughout.
isn't a fire situation. This is literally a millstone situation. I don't know.
It is a millstone situation, but we can't give millstones to sinners.
Yes, right, exactly.
I mean, not sinners, but lost people, which Barnes & Noble clearly are. I mean, like, they have.
Feels good to be yourself.
You're right.
Sex is a funny word.
You're
beyond
correct,
gender
theologian.
binary.
Dude,
listen, these are the obvious ones,
you can't do this
right?
anymore.
I'm talking about the ones that are where it's subtle.
They sneak it in,
right?
Yep.
Where it's just like, oh, that's like where you have step parents or this kinds of thing,
Oh, hey, what's going on there? Yeah.
Or to say nothing of all of the ones that they create the stereotypically like buffoonish father figure,
the buffoon dad.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I love about Bluey. I actually saw this. This was so great. Oh, hold on that note, Tim. So I was on Instagram, and someone had posted, because you guys watch Bluey. Did you watch the new episodes?
Did you not watch Bluey?
I watch. Yeah, which ones?
You don't watch
I watch
Bluey?
Bluey all the time.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
My kids don't watch TV in the first place.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair. I guess I don't really sit down and watch Bluey.
I was like, I would not have watched Bluey either, but this is what happened. The first time I got exposed to this, my kids asked, Avery and Lily asked when I think we were living in South Carolina at the time, and I am like, all right, fine, I'll check this out. Dude, I was laughing so hard. that Danelle had to come upstairs and she was like, what is going on? And I'm like, this show is so, dude, I'm telling you right now, it is like a cold drink of water in the desert of like, not just the desert, a desert
Hollywood?
knife fight of Mad Max. Like the children's section of any streaming service is like Mad Max Fury Road for a dad. Yep. You're just like, I think this looks good. No, it's not. You know, like you're just, and then I'm watching this and the main character, Bandit, what I love about this dude is he's just like, he's engaged. And there's all these inside jokes through the whole thing.
I love that they're anthropomorphized, but they still have stereotypical dog names.
Dog features, Well,
and this is what happened. Their jobs. Bandit's an archaeologist. He digs for bones, and his mom works for the airport as a drug sniffer.
Right. So they're secretly running an antiquities smuggling ring is the secret, thought with that. But anyway, the funny part was in one of the last episodes, they did like this flash forward to when they're all grown up, right? When Bluey and Bingo, the two daughters, are grown up. And somebody thought they were being cute and was like, wouldn't it be great if like Bingo was married to a woman? I love that. And then I was just like, I'm going to test my theory. This is this woman's channel. So all these people in the comments are people that follow this woman's channel, right? And I hit the comment section and bro, it was awesome. There were every single
you don't normally see
person.
That online.
Dude, I wasn't expecting it, and I was just like, wrong side of history, huh? How's that working out for you? Because it was like, these people were like, shut up. Leave the children alone. Keep your... I'm serious. Like, every single comment was just...
Yeah.
I think lighting this woman up for like trying to drag this into woke territory. And I was like, thank you, Jesus.
No exceptions.
Yes. Everybody is so tired also.
Because
everybody's so tired of the entertainment industry, of Hollywood, of Netflix, of all of these streaming services. Everybody that's in control of the content that we consume have gone so far left to the extreme, where it's Marvel is now the MCU. Like it's like Star Wars, great. The Force is female. Everything is moving in a direction. Let's put a Cartman with the
Jedis. The Jedis are fascists now.
Right.
Did you see the new?
Yes.
Acolyte.
Check
trailer.
out our review with 47 views on it.
We're gonna have a second. We're gonna have a second one. We'll bring it back. All right, because they got a new trailer. So,
but. Everybody's exhausted. Everybody's exhausted. It's, and here's the funny thing. This has come full circle. All of the people that are like, man, Hollywood's
like
generating like horrible stuff, and it's too on the nose, and they're shoving their ideology down our throats. And I'm like, dude, Christians, we had this in Christian movies. Like it was and you complained, oh, this is horrible. This is horrible. Now suddenly it's come to your house and you're like, oh, it's not that bad. Like, oh, come on. No, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Coming from somebody that grew up on Christian movies where, we're talking before God's Not Dead and before The Passion of the Christ, where we had, cheesy stuff where it was on the nose and stuff. So, it's everybody's exhausted. Everybody's tired of it,
Yeah.
No, they're all absolutely. You start to, once you start to pull away from it, like once you find whatever your line is, I think that sets off a chain reaction in a lot of people where they say, well, I don't really want that either. I don't want that either. Why? Hold on. Because you get to this moment where you realize that when it comes to media, it's all produced, it's all created. Everything is intentional. None of the characters happened to be gay. They were made that way on purpose, and there was the purpose behind that was in the mind of the creator and the writer who do that. Why would that be? Well, we know, but what happens is, here's the stereotypical response you'll get. Like if you object to it, it's like, oh, why do you care so much if a character happens to be gay? Why did you care so much to make sure one of them was?
Right.
Don't pretend like we're just suddenly noticing something that happened by accident when you have made an affirmative, willful choice to do this, and I'm not allowed to ask why that's the case.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially with kids, I think people are willing to put up with a lot when it comes to adulthood and politics. But the moment that it starts affecting kids, that's when people speak with their vote. With what is it in Virginia with the governor being elected? Wasn't that a whole thing with the LGBT
that
curriculum
was
in
probably
schools, and abortion and a few other things. But it's like with kids, right?
Yeah, the decisive thing was probably the issues in the Northern Virginia schools where they had scandalous hiding of sexual assaults because some of the subjects of those, I think, were like transgender or whatever. And so there was a lot that like parents literally not being told of rapes that happened. And so, it really strikes a nerve there. And so I think that's what prompted a lot of people who probably otherwise would have been reliable Democrat voters in that area, even though they may have agreed with a lot of the stuff that guy stood for, they knew for 100% sure that the Republican guy wasn't going to advance that.
Yeah. Right. You know what's crazy? Or no, go ahead, Tim. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I think that that's really what it came down to is the kid. You're right. The kids aspect was the red line for a lot of people. Yeah.
So this is what's amazing to me is that this is the lesson that humanity is relearning, or at least America is relearning, is that like you can't sin doesn't stop at an age bracket. Like if you let sin into if you tolerate it with adults, it's gonna end up with your kids. Like that's the reality. So you can't look at an adult and say, we'll tolerate your moral depravity because you're an adult and you can do whatever you want. No.
Right.
No.
Because they are one piece of the mosaic of your society, and it will degrade and infect everything around it. So, when you guys now have to sit there and explain to your kids when they see, two dudes acting romantically towards each other, and that's not the image that you've permitted to be portrayed to them elsewhere, and now they have to have this depravity forced into their consciousness, when it otherwise didn't need to be.
Yeah, and when you talk to even when I talk to LGBTQ people or allies, like whatever language they want to use, and they'll be like, well, nobody's trying to go after your kids, or nobody's trying to do that, and I'm like, if it were possible to just ensure that this was just the behavior of adults and it stayed there, that would be great. But, when I go to Claire's, with my daughter, and the individual behind the cash register is presenting as a female but has a full beard, and my daughter looks at the guy and then looks at me and says, and looks like super conflicted, like I don't know how to interact with this individual, and she's super excited because she wants to buy a pack of earrings, and the thing now that she's presented with is I don't this is is this what is this? And I just look at it and I just take the earrings and I set them on the counter and I say, and he rings it up and I'm like, and then I have because you know what, now I have to have a conversation that I didn't want to have with my 6-year-old daughter, and that's the thing that I think is a lot of people are getting.
The perimeter of their awareness is not supposed to be forced that far away, and that's what people when they said, "Oh, just let people do this," or just how far we've come. We're all old enough to remember all of the mocking slippery slope arguments that people were made about just gay marriage. Like, oh, just let the gays get married. It's like, well, interesting. It seems like every prediction we made that you called a slippery slope turned out to be 100% accurate.
100% happened.
There's a slippery slope is a logical fallacy, but the logical conclusion is a logical argument, and they just tried to conflate the one with the other. And we knew that the fundamental philosophical premise underpinning gay behavior, but gay marriage in particular, was a inability to distinguish between men and women. The idea that you could simply exchange one for the other. And so when we said, quite rightly at the time, "Oh, okay, are you going to let thruples get married? Are you gonna turn men into women? Or are you gonna?" And they're like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. Nobody wants to do that." It's like, yes, they do, because they hate what's good, and they will never stop pushing the boundaries towards more and more depravity. I promise.
So, as a Christian, then what does this mean for us, right? So we look at why should we care about the Boy Scout thing? Why do we care about? Why do we care? Why are we talking about homosexuality and the Boy Scout thing? Yes, that's a part of what all this is, but it all comes.
I know what my point about that is. And it's that you have to fight on those frontiers. Because 100%. When Boy Scouts started that in 2015, a lot of people were bullied in the same way they were bullied into, just let the gays get married. All these frontiers are battlefronts. And if you choose not to fight them where they currently are, you're going to fight them somewhere else later.
Yep, 100%. And you'll be fighting them. You'll be fighting. No, I agree. I totally agree. That's exactly it. It is what, the reason that it's important for us to speak out is because the only reason we landed in this situation to begin with was that people on the other side of this conversation didn't give any ground. The moment that they felt like they couldn't do what they wanted, they made a big deal about it. And people, right, especially kind people, which, right there in the, in the Scout law.
Kindness is a virtue. Agreeability is being
agreeability, but I don't even mean it that way. It's saying like, hey, you try to accommodate and be reasonably and be polite to somebody, but that's what happens is that politeness without conviction leads to you getting walked all over and you losing ground. Like, I am polite with people I disagree with. I will not tolerate, forcing behaviors or exposing my children to things or having things that I
don't even think
the
obligation
wrong.
Is politeness. I mean, the things
I'm not
that
saying
Jesus
I didn't say it's an
obligation.
No. I'm not saying that we have to be polite. What I'm saying is that is the temperament. That was the general attitude that most Christians, especially, I'll speak to Christians especially, we seek to, like, we try to be loving and approachable and engaging with people, and we understand that people who are living, like people who don't know Jesus, are going to be living in sin. So if we just isolated ourselves from them and treated them like, pariahs, that's contrary to what Jesus did. And so the balance is to say, on the one hand, you can be loving, you can be engaging, you can be tolerant, but you cannot condone or explicitly or implicitly the sin or the sinful behavior, and certainly not allow it as as acceptable effectively.
But I think this is also now the time for discernment, right? Because we have so many people who are not arguing in good faith. They are trying to use your moral obligations to outreach or to be relatable, to engage with people. They are trying to use that against you as cover for creating the conversational bubble that includes their wingnut notions when they never have any intention of giving any ground on that, right? So I say that as there are some, and maybe we should honestly do a whole episode on it sometime, is just talking about all of the red flags that say this is bad faith. You're not dealing with a serious person.
Red flags.
People, if we had been better as a Christian, as a specifically Christian society, those of us who are actually Christians, about recognizing who those bad faith actors were, we never would have fallen for a lot of their bad faith argumentation. Like, just let the gays get married and then we'll leave you alone. That was bad faith. They always knew that was
who never fell for those kinds of things? Jerry Falwell Sr. Never missed a beat, that guy. Well, never missed a beat.
We're going through an interesting time. I think I heard Jordan Peterson talking about the different types of progressive movements and progressive tyrannies, and putting classes against one another. And there's then, putting races against another. And what we're experiencing right now is putting compassion. It's tyranny by compassion. This idea that it's, being kind. But really, ultimately what it is it's being kind to the things that really don't exist predominantly in society. And I'm not talking about people, but I'm talking about ideologies. Like the majority of people don't feel the way that is being pushed. And so because of that, the majority of people are being oppressed, which falls right in line with the kind of socialistic, communistic structure that world dictators are looking for. But yeah, let's at some point want to transition into maybe some alternatives as well.
Yeah, so that's the issue. What do we do now, right? So here's the thing. This gets back to when we talked about discipleship. This gets back to when we were talking about dating. We are responsible to structure our communities in a way that advances the kingdom of God. And the way that we advance the kingdom of God, the way that Jesus told us to do it, is to make disciples from nearest downward, right? Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth, right? So you're starting in your community, starting in your home, in your family. So if, as a man, which based on what YouTube tells me is like 90% of the people who listen to this podcast, if you're a man, and you're married, then you got to set conditions at home. And so that is, that's what grieves me, is that, like, so say you've got young kids, getting them out of your own house and into other Christian, in community, socializing them and reinforcing those principles is something that we need to do. Discipleship and having that reinforced by other families is something that needs to happen. And we lost this thing. So the Boy Scouts has been taken from American society in the way that it used to support and provide something from us that doesn't do that anymore. So then, what exists that does that?
And it's not even just married people with children who have that responsibility, because one of the things that you only really recognize, I think, in retrospect, looking back at a couple episodes ago where you guys were talking about dating and whatnot, I think a lot of the single people also need to be reminded of how much freedom and latitude they have to advance those kinds of institutions, structures, to promote them, to, like, the things that, like, I simply can't do because I don't have the time. And that's appropriate, like, as far as, investing your efforts in your own family. But there's definitely a part of me that realizes, I certainly missed some opportunities to invest in my Christian community at a higher level when I was single. Yeah. That I just don't have anymore. And so, there's a reason, like, we sit there and, like, we make fun of bachelors, all the time. And, there are these, chaos agents in society and why, but the reason we tolerate having them around is because they're so freaking useful.
They are.
And so,
right.
I just say that by way of affirmation, because obviously we focus all on the family, but the unattached members of our Christian community in some ways can play on a short term, more impactful, active role in promoting those kinds of things.
Huge role, especially Boy Scouts is a perfect example of that. I can remember, let's not talk about not just Boy Scouts, but, like, I think back to being in middle school, being on, my soccer coach also happened to be, like, lead a Bible study for us, for the team, for, like, the JV soccer team, right? Him and then some of the other older guys, even some of the senior high schoolers, like, they kind of basically broke the JV soccer team into smaller groups, and, like, the coach who coached both JV and varsity, and then some of, like, the seniors were the ones leading that. I'm pointing to a high school point, but, like, that's intergenerational ministry is critical. Life phase critical, because young men look up at, like, a middle schooler isn't looking at a dad, like one of those other dads, as, like, the same way he's looking at that high school aged kid, because they're trying to see their future. They can relate.
It's a more attainable. Like, in a few years,
I'm
going to be a little bit stronger. Like, I'm going to be faster. I'm going to be taller. I can do.
I can do those things. So you want to present models at each phase that kind of paint that picture. And so, like, if you're on that spectrum, if you're a young man listening to this, a high school student, like, guess what? You still get to disciple. Like, that's a great, that's easy. It's so much easier, almost, to be honest. Like,
especially when you're a father, you have to constrain your behavior in ways that a bachelor doesn't. And that's not to say it's better or worse. It just means they get to go out there, throw down the gauntlet in ways that, as a husband and wife, or as a husband and father, your obligations to your wife and children are going to constrain you from doing that. Now, obviously, you're still 100% going to do it when,
for sure.
When things get real. But you get to have the more aggressive, rakish bachelors demonstrate some of that more obvious male vitality and
passion. That zealotry.
Thumos, if you will.
That's exactly it, and that's what...
Greek snobs.
It's like, I didn't have to go to seminary. I learned Greek on my own.
It's important to me that I have an outlet or an alternative, to these types of things. I really think in my experience growing up, I wasn't part of the Royal Ambassadors, but I was part of the, I think, an Assemblies of God version of that, which was the Royal Rangers. And we had the same kind of system where we had to learn Bible verses and we had to do different things. So every year we would go on a camp consistently. We'd go to a camp with our fathers, and it was just men. And we would go out into the wilderness for 3 or 4 days. It was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it was wonderful. It was awesome. And I missed that. In fact, I was looking around for, churches that have that type of, those troops and attaching it to the churches. And I haven't really been able to find one. But there is an alternative. And so I wanted to kind of just share, so we're not just leaving everybody with doom and gloom here. I wanted to share that there is an alternative that we've seen. And if you're interested, please comment in the comment section, please, because if you're interested, we might be able to get the CEO or somebody representing this particular men or fathers and sons, organization.
I just see that picture and it makes me want to go camping. I don't know, right? You just...
I mean...
Yeah, but you know what they're missing? Like 3 pickup trucks, a giant 100-inch projector screen, and a bonfire.
Man.
Well,
I love
that's
the way
just
we
us
camp.
when we camp.
Dude.
We do it right.
Because let me silly... Oh, fine. No, finish. Then we'll talk about
Let me finish
glamping.
on this. Yeah. So let me just talk about it. So one of the things is, I love that, Josh, that you had talked about like this idea of supervised danger, right? And this being raised in an environment where, one of the things that brings a young man alive, and if you're a parent, a father or a mother of a young boy, you're going to know this, is, being given the permission to be dangerous is something that is, it is so like life-giving and growing to be like, wow, I can do this. And it helps you to understand, one, when you are in a dangerous environment, to not do something stupid. And two, it helps you to overcome some of the things that you might encounter that are really disgusting in this world, to say, no, I'm fine on my own. I don't need to rely on anybody else, right? Under the guidance. So I really do like this, this as an alternative to the Boy Scouts.
Are they
started
national?
Really, yeah, they are national. They gained like 70% of their following during COVID, when Boy Scouts kind of like shut down, and they're like, screw that, we'll start our own. And so they basically they went through this whole where they have like over 1,100 churches that they partner with, and I think really it's like it's a ministry. It's attaching to a church, but it's not like a church ministry. It's a ministry in and of itself that attaches itself to, so that way it's not denominational specific and stuff. But I think that this is a good opportunity to look in and check out. You could check to see if where you could find all over the United States. I think they have mostly on the East Coast. They came out of North Carolina or South Carolina.
No, that's awesome.
Or something, one of the Carolinas. So it's a great opportunity.
Can you do that close to Los Angeles? What do you do, like drink from a cactus?
Dude, LA has you get
you
mountain lions, man. You fight mountain lions. Have you not heard about this? Like,
That's
are the
true.
random
it's probably
coyotes
more
like
metal?
Yeah, and homeless people. Like, you have to worry about tetanus. And it's like crafting fires.
Right, they have an obstacle course of used needles.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have to learn how to like self-inoculate from, hepatitis and all sorts of crazy things.
There's an opportunity there for an urban bushcraft
for sure. Like an urban survival channel, yeah.
Hey, Josh, curious,
close the screen real quick. Stop,
in San Francisco? I just curious.
Oh, no, there's not. There can't be. Yeah, see, look.
A little bit.
Wait.
Right
okay.
in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Oakland. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a fun game where you like drive around in a car with a laptop in the back seat and try not to get your window broken.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely some of the wealthy areas. I mean, Walnut Creek and some of those.
Silicon Valley.
So here's an interesting thing for you to think about. So this is a good one, right? This is another reason why camping is super important. So let's kind of switch gears here. So yes, if you got a community like Royal Ambassadors or this Trail Life thing, and you can get involved with that, great. But when I was growing up, my parents, we were missionaries overseas, so we didn't. My dad tried to get us involved in Boy Scouts. They used to have this thing called Lone Scouts, which I promise you sounds way cooler than what it is in reality. What it is in reality is you doing Boy Scouts alone. That's what it is in reality. So needless to say,
folks.
Yeah, exactly. Needless to say, it didn't last long. But I graduated from the Dwayne Hughes School of Scouting, which was but which involved things like, drowning
Chinese
rats
jungle?
drowning like rodents of unusual size. It's funny. I was trying to get my brother to come on today. Maybe we'll get him on another week. But, we used to joke about the things that we did that were like scouting merit badges. And like one of them would have been like drowned rivers in irrigation creeks in like Chinese farm fields. So like I was 10 or 11. I was probably 11 at the time. My brother is 2 years younger than me. So, he would have been like 9. And so that was hard math. I had to think about that, just so you guys know. We would take these like baskets traps, and when I tell you that these rats were the size of house cats, that is not hyperbolic.
The ROUS.
Yeah, no, I'm dead serious.
He mentioned that on the Shawn Ryan podcast,
and we would have
too.
6 of these things. So 6 of them. So we would literally look like Chinese villagers with like a bamboo pole with 3 traps on either side, with effectively 6 screaming house cat sized rats. And Justin and he would have 6 and I would have 6, and we would walk to the stream, and we would have to like push these cages under the water and watch these rats die and then dump them. Then we would carry the drowned rats up to the burn pile where we would throw these bodies in, and we did this every day. Okay.
I need to know what the Dolly generated merit badge for that activity looks like.
I'm just saying that, like, but my point is like,
it's just a badge of PETA with a cross mark.
That's
through
it.
That's it.
But what I'm getting at is you can literally, I give that as like a horror story, right? But camping and like taking your kids out and being out in the woods and teaching them to like pack their own bags and keep track of their own gear and what is involved in organizing and moving. In my family, it's a necessity because of the way that our calling and what we do for work. But if you are someone who lives in a small town or one town, you don't travel that often apart from vacations, that is something that, scouting kind of used to fill that void. It was a way to prepare your children with certain life skills. And so if you don't have that, then that's what I would suggest is like family camping trips or father-son camping trips or father-daughter camping trips or traveling.
Do it.
Is a really, even just that simple, hey, and doing it with regularity so that your kids know what it means when I say we're going on an adventure. Like, it means I'm going to get my bag, I'm going to get my stuff, and helping them understand what that means. And then also like the natural consequences, like I teach my kids, like, what you need to bring. If you do not bring it, then you do not have it. And apart from like safety things.
Oh, I can make them pack their own go bags and then just like,
that's it.
Call and we do a second's notice, be like, I hope you're back.
Yeah. Dude. And so,
being a dad is the best.
It is.
As a dad, I mean, seriously, as a dad, how cool, and this is to everyone listening, all the dads, how cool would it be if on a Friday afternoon your kids get home from school, where they walk home from school, but the moment they get home through the
wait
door,
till school's out, man.
Well, okay, whatever the moment is, you got their go bag, and you're like, we're going all week. Like,
you got their go bag.
They're not even they're not expecting. You know how exciting that is for a young boy.
Out. They'd flip out.
Oh, so cool. Like, I would love for my dad to just show up, even today.
I know.
We're going. Like,
those are some of my best memories.
What man wouldn't want to do that, right?
No, some of my best memories of stuff like that. And that's what you got to, and that's the best, and I understand that it takes a lot of work. And here's another thing too. Some of you may have wives that are, where they're like, oh, well, you got to do this. You got to listen. Sometimes, you just got to go do it.
The call.
Sometimes you lie to your wife.
Gosh, like sometimes you just don't tell her. Sometimes you say we're gonna go visit grandma and grandpa, and you take them to the mountains by yourself alone, and you don't tell her, and you turn off
my
wife.
Is actually less risk
it's
averse
easier than for
I am.
Permission.
No, yours is definitely for sure. Well, mine's adventures too, but like the difference is like here's the difference, right? I'll give you 2 scenarios.
She's a planner.
Right, so is mine, and she wants to go. So, like, if we go out to go, like, say, mountain bike riding, right? Perfect example. My wife went on she got to go on a retreat recently for Protestant Women of the Chapel. She never gets away by herself, so she goes. So she's gone, and I find out there's this cool mountain biking kind of like pump track that's in a town near us. And so I'm like, hey, kids, we're going to go check out this mountain biking track. And they're like, sweet. So what do? I say, hey, kids, get your stuff ready. Dad's going to go load the bikes in the truck, and then we're going to head out. So they got their stuff. I'm like, you got your helmets? Yep. The water bottle, whatever. We get in the car, and my kids, they know better. Like my oldest, Dad, don't forget sunscreen. And I'm like, yeah, hey, good memory. I wouldn't have remembered that, but they do because they hear, Mom, right? So we get there, and my son, he like eats it within like the first 45 minutes of us being there, and like splits his chin open, like needs stitches, splits his chin open, right? And he comes over to me, and I'm
yes, like, awesome.
And I like, hopefully I got Band-Aids in the car, yeah. So we get back, and I like, one of our friends is a nurse, and I'm like, it needs stitches. She's like, oh, that's like borderline. And I'm like, okay. So I get I get new skin, like drop it in the wound, and I'm like holding it, pinching it close, and just blowing on it till it dries.
That stings too, man.
Dude, it did. He's like freaking out. But
if you don't have face scars, did you even have a childhood?
I know, but my point is like the kids will figure it out. Do hard things with them. Let them forget stuff. Let them figure out what happens, when they don't wear the right shoes. And then let them accomplish, things too. Like do things that have a goal. Like let them, go hike a mountain, go to a waterfall.
How many pairs of shoes do you own? Did you have to give up some when you moved to Germany, or did that all come with you, Hughes?
No, it all came with me. I got lots of shoes, man.
Yeah. Do you have more than your wife? Or?
I do have more shoes than my wife.
Just some clogs.
One for each of the activities.
Every
Chacos, all of the Chacos, the rock climbing shoes, mountain boot.
Okay, I want to get the audience's opinion on your little feud. Do they know about this? Did you talk about this while I wasn't here?
We talked about this last episode.
Let's talk about this.
And I will say, everyone who watched, we had a whole lot of views, a lot of comments, loved it. We're trying to engage with every single one of you. Appreciate it, whether you agree or disagree with us. We love that you're watching us, and thank you so much. But comment if you disagree with us. Hey, we'll start a fire in the comment section. That's fine.
But now we literally need you to settle a bet. So
right, but we're talking about celebrity conversions, and one of the things that Josh said last episode is that by the end of this year, Jordan Peterson will be a professing Christian, right? That's what he said. And I'm like, I don't know. And there was some good feedback in the comments. There was a good feedback in the comments. Somebody saying, well, I think that if he does that, he may believe it, but if he comes out publicly with it, he'll lose his intellectual base. So there's a lot of reasons behind it. And so my thought is, I don't think he will publicly profess that. And I think that's one of the reasons why. Josh, however, seems to be very confident.
It's already happened.
That it already happened.
Correct. Because here's what I want everyone to understand is that I appreciate your opening arguments, Josh. Now into counter.
Going to the 5-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to... No, we don't need a 5-minute rebuttal. What we'll just hear is Jordan Peterson in his own words on the Shawn Ryan podcast, 24 hours after I said what I said. We can cut that in here.
I don't know.
So listen to it.
I might call
you
foul,
listen
though.
to the, no, you got to put it in there. I might call foul
because
you
it was
got to put it in there.
Obviously recorded that way before the episode, and you
doesn't matter.
You have some inside information into the Shawn Ryan.
Hey,
show.
I did not know that Shawn Ryan even had Jordan Peterson on, but
so
I'll
here's
find
the
out.
Question: does that clip? As far as the believing audience, we don't need to hear from you heretics out there that you don't get a vote.
No, we do. By all means. No, yeah, but no. You know what? I want your vote. Go ahead and come in the comment section because
I feel like
I don't know if you guys noticed. We had like 40
of the kingdom and they can't vote.
Hey, they don't get to vote, but they
No
service
standards.
guarantees citizenship. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Go ahead and trash talk in the comments because if you haven't noticed, we had like 40 comments on the last video and it was literally double our normal view count, which was fantastic. So listen, get in the comment section. Right. Make it a raging dumpster fire. I don't care. I'll get in there.
This clip
it's a knife fight. It's fine. We want to hear from you. We love talking to you. So Josh is going to cut in the clip. At this point,
do you believe in it?
Well, I believe in it in the way that we just described. Do I believe that the truth sets you free? Absolutely. It isn't that I believe it even. I know it's true. I know it's true, and I try to live in that knowledge. it's very difficult to only think or say things that are true, but you can practice it. Mm-hmm. And it's a great relief. Well, as you pointed out, you don't have to keep track of anything. That's just that in and of itself is
it's freeing.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Freeing.
Do I believe that Christ is the way and the life and that no one comes to the Father but through him? Sure. But I also know what that means. It means that, imagine that you want to have the Spirit of the Almighty dwell within you, say, in this Old Testament manner. How do you do that? By taking the burden of life on yourself voluntarily. Why? Because that causes the best within you to make itself manifest. You know that.
Point.
Look,
you can
and
render
the question is,
your judgment.
Do you believe this qualifies as Jordan
Correct.
Peterson publicly professing Christianity to the extent that he's going to heaven when he dies?
To heaven. Correct.
Yeah.
And
he hasn't been baptized yet, so I won't give it that yet.
I take the stance that he has not made this is not his public profession, or this would not count as a public profession. Josh, however,
okay, that's
why
fine.
do you want
We're
Jordan Peterson to go to hell?
Why do you want Jordan Peterson to go to hell? That's what we need to know. Any thoughts on why Josh Anderson doesn't want Jordan Peterson to be saved?
Yeah. Why do I want Kermit the Frog?
Who judges
Is it
the heart?
because he's a ginger, or is there more to it?
They don't hate their
I'm
own.
soulless, and I want everybody to come down with me. That's get infected with
It's a good thing you guys need to bind yourself with mutual implications, or else they won't go through it. Then. Anyway,
so, all right, let us know in the comment section who's
right, or
who's right.
Yes,
ambiguity is an acceptable answer. We need more
information.
information.
You can say maybe.
That's my
position. I still have till 2020. I have till January 1st, 2025 to be proven wrong. However, I will accept payment from PayPal, Cash App, or Bitcoin for my claims. If you want to help Josh once he loses the bet, feel free to let him know. To contribute.
What's the cutoff date?
$100.
What's the cutoff date?
$100.
What's the cutoff date?
I told
January
you, New
1st?
Year's Eve of
New Year's Eve. Okay.
New Year's Day. We'll
2024?
say 2025 is the cutoff. I said it by the end of the year, so I guess New Year's Eve. Sure, we'll do a New Year's Eve show. We'll wait.
That he becomes a professing
Not
Christian.
that he becomes that he professes that he believes that he's a professing Christian, that
He's
he believes
repented,
the gospel,
and
that
he confesses that Christ and him crucified, resurrected on the third day. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And baptized into the.
I didn't say baptized yet, though. I didn't say baptized in my initial bet. I didn't say baptized.
All right. Okay.
I just said that he professes.
Romans 10:9.
Sure,
Right.
that's where we're at.
Confess with your mouth
the
that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. You'll be saved.
Right.
There you
so
go.
does Romans 10:9? Did it already happen? You tell me. You tell us.
See.
Also,
Kingdom citizens only.
That's right. The rest of you can render judgment, but your vote doesn't count. Because anyway.
Illegal.
My point was, next episode, if you have any suggestions on topics, we're always looking at the news. We're looking for what you guys are talking about, what you care about. I know a couple of you have thrown out some really good topics. But anything you guys got for us, we want to hear it, and we'll do what we can to put it in there. Anyway, subscribe, comment. We'll see you next time.